Hi, Jaya. I thought I'd kick off the Unreal Engine 5 experience with a little video to make your onboarding easier. So I don't know if this is of any merit to you, but yeah, I just fumble around a bit and talk a bit about it. So this is a very simple project I'm toying around with right now. It's just started. It's me trying to get a player character in that's not a normal model that's walking around, but a little spaceship that's flying around. And so it's a yeah, character actor that is set up from the ground with own physics controls and stuff. And yeah, so the fantasy was to maybe have a carrier type game where a player can land on this carrier here, which is the box right now, and the world is moved around the carrier all the time, streaming I don't know, planets or asteroid fields or whatever in and out. And the player or the players in this case are little space pilots that go mining and exploring surroundings, but also have to keep in mind to return back to the carrier in time, as at a certain point they don't have enough fuel to come back, or yeah, objects stream out of the level. And, yeah, so we have a level border. Yeah, well, so this is what this toy box here is about, but I just want to use it to explain some stuff about the engine. So I'm right now playing within the engine. Press the escape key. I'm in edit mode here. With right mouse button down and moving the mouse, you can change the view. And with the WASD keys, you can then move, yeah, very slowly now. If you turn the mouse wheel back and forward, you're speeding up the mouse speed, but you still notice it's very slow right now. So I hope you can see my mouse pointer here. If I click on the right hand corner on this camera symbol here, that's the camera speed. And as I've got quite large distances and that higher camera speed to make the scrolling better for my purposes. Now you can see we are much swifter, covering larger distances. And you can fine tune the speed with the mouse wheel a bit. Yeah, so what we see here is a main editing video of the currently selected level. Yeah, so I think you can see the selected main level here on list of world blueprints. Yeah, and there's open level blueprint. We could have different levels. When we press the control and spacebar simultaneously, the content browser from the bottom of the screen pops up, unfolds itself, and there you could store other level files, for example. Yeah, content browser, the folder structure on the left hand side here. You can make your own folders, which is quite handy to sort your stuff. So it's all the classes you prepare, all your potential content you could place into the levels themselves later on. So I made a subfolder under content, for example, for playership. Right now it's showing nothing because I got the filter to third. So remove the third filter. You can see some ship models I just popped together inside the engine. You can merge static meshes, boxes, turn them, and then create new, more complex meshes out of this. Very good for prototyping without using any kind of 3D modeling software. Yeah, so that's the content browser here. If you wanted to create something new, I think you could just do a right click, and then it's often lots of options to create basic assets of different types. For example, there's here level assets selected. You want to do a level, yeah, and there's all kinds of different, yeah, so many kinds of different classes to draw from and create your own assets here. Yeah, let's fold this back to the main window for navigation. So WASD and slower, and right button down for flying around here. Could also just left click anywhere and turn, but I think right button and WASD works best for me. So to select something, you click on it. I'll select my little spaceship, and it's got yeah, 3 directions. always all selected options, the axis and the world level. And right now I'm in placement mode. You can see this little blue icon here. Select and translate objects. So this allows me, if I click just on one button here, one axis, I can drag and round, disassembling my spaceship here. But this is actually not the one I fly, but just another one for decorative purposes. And I see it's not even merged together. Yeah. So could pull another axis and then go into the lateral here, or in this direction here. Okay. Now there's two modes. This is now a snap grip mode. You can see this here. And this is the sensitivity of the snap grip. So this is good for aligning stuff, so you don't have little seams everywhere. But you could also go in free placement, pixel-wise, and then it's turned off. I would leave it on it, yeah. Then you can go into the turn mode or rotate mode, and this allows you with the same principle to rotate the objects in any angle you like. Now all the stuff I do here, you can also see in the properties, selected item on the right hand side of the screen. There's two tabs for details and world settings. World settings is settings for all of your levels, overarching settings. And the detailed settings are for the currently selected object. In this case, it's cube here. And right at the top of the detailed settings, you can see the transforms, and one of them is the rotation. And now if I rotate the object, you can see that the rotation is switching there. And if I now wanted to go back to 0, I would just go into the field, enter a 0, and we're clicking in. So that's the rotational one. I think again there is some kind of snap to degree mode, which is off right now. If I turn it on, I guess I would degree in increments of 10. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, these are the ones I use the most. You can also scale this one here. Interesting. I usually don't do this, but yeah, why not? I mean, this is good. And same, you can do it here in the transforms. I find the lock quite handy. So if you wanted to apply the same change for all three scale axes in this type and double everything, you just lock it, and then it multiplies all axes with the same factor, and then keeps the relation of the sizes the same. So the shape stays the same, but the whole object enlarges. Yeah, so that's our three quick transforms here. Yeah, I think this here is coordinated and local object space. Oh yeah. So I think, let's say I'd return this here a bit. So, and if I now go into move mode, you can see that the axes for my location transformation are still aligned to world coordinates. So they have not been turned simultaneously with the object. But if I click this little world icon now, then I go into the local transform system. So now the axes have aligned with the turn degree of the object, and now I can move it along its own normal vector, you could say. Yeah, quite handy sometimes. And then especially when we are going to coding with the blueprint system later, it's quite important to get the difference between local and world coordinate systems, as it's used very often, I think. Yeah, so that's a bit about the movement within our editor screen. That's about grabbing objects, moving them, and transforming them. Yeah, so to spawn a new object in here, you can do this with this plus icon here, quickly add to project, and then you could just search something pre-prepared, maybe a point light, just grab it and place it somewhere. Yeah, and then we've got our little very tiny point light there, which then could of course increase in radius and whatnot. You can also do the same, just drag and drop stuff, I think, with the content browser. So if I wanted to add another player ship model into the world, I'll just grab it and drag it from there into the game world, very easy. You can also copy and paste selected stuff. In former versions, I could do a shortcut of Control W to do a second object. It isn't working anymore. But what you can do is Control C for copy, and then a Control V for for inserting the copy, and now you should have a selected chip, yes, to move around. Okay, so this is something one does typically very often. So where does it all begin? That's always the most difficult question. I mean, what is the overlying structure of all the stuff? I think the most overlying stuff, besides directory and where everything is saved, which is a question of its own, is actually when you go to edit project settings, and lots of settings here, as you can see. The search button here is very handy, and I think under maps and modes it's very top level, and because here many things are set up. At first, your default game mode file is selectable here, and within the selected game modes, and lots of configurations, very ground laying configurations are made. Like, for example, what is your default pawn? Pawn is I think it's one of the classes of character, or parent class of character. So it is, if you start your 3D content kit, the character you have there, I think is the most fleshed out one. So it's the lowest child, and the row is something like actor, which is basically every item you can place, and it's a pawn. It indicates that it's a type of actor that is at one point is supposed to be player and or AI controlled. And then if you say choose a character, I think that's for the player controlled only. I'm not certain. At least they have more complex movement models and stuff on them. Yeah, so here you would actually define with which kind of class you would start the game, or you would even make a whole game mode of your own. Could have a look later on into the BP for Blueprint third person game mode. I mean, if you open the content browser, I can do this right now. Curious too. What was it now? It's starting with game mode, right? Shouldn't be so many game modes. No. BP third person game mode. Yeah. So we got parent class game mode. You got when you mouse over, you got this nice information, especially convenient for parent classes, so you can see what stuff comes from. So you can see I've got my own game mode here for the carrier game. But, let's have a look in the third person game mode. Yeah, so that's not your typical Blueprint class here. It's a data blueprint only. Yeah, and seeing lots of definitions. Everything starts. Yeah. So and here you could make your own game mode if you want to, and then your own kind of default pawn that's starting here. Yeah, lots of other stuff I have not really a grasp on. Yeah, right. I mean, controller, I think is a question whether it's the player or the AI, but it's also, I think, a bit beyond this, because it's the input that the camera catches versus input that the player makes with the character spawned. Yeah. Okay. So there's this game mode stuff under edit, prototyping maps and modes. That's quite top level, I think. Yeah. Then perhaps on this project here, to get a bit into the Blueprint system, we could now have a look at the I think at the player controller, at the player blueprint that I have placed here. Where is it? But there it is. Yeah, I've placed everything ship related here, so it's a static mesh. That's so to say just the physical objects, the boxes, yeah. And then it's the blueprint class. Let's go into this one. This is quite helpful, I think. Yeah. So you see me here, spaghetti monster, but don't judge me on that, cause it's an under construction thing here. The other ones are much more nicely done now. Yeah, where to start? So that's the player ship here, and there's components of it. So it's It's just not just the pawn we have, the player ship pawn, but it itself carries components. So it's little sub-objects, you could say, that are aligned to it and are always spawned with it and relate to it in their own inner rotation and placement, transformation and stuff. So this is the static mesh, as I mentioned. That's the player ship itself. So the model. Then there's a spring arm here. You can see this when you go to viewport here. Yeah, you can see this little arm here, this red one. Yeah, this leads from the center at the moment of our static mesh model to the camera that is now in the hierarchy below the arm. So if I would now move the arm to something different, as camera is child of arm, so camera would move with the arm. Yeah, and the spring arm is a very handy thing for Unreal, because it you can give the spring arm a certain length here under target arm length. That's the distance to the player. And if now an object goes between the camera point of view and the player character, then the camera will go closer to the player and so avoids that the object is covering the player. So it's a dynamic camera. It's working very efficiently. Just all set up already. It can be toyed around with. Yeah, so you got these three components here, and you can add lots of more components. Let's say if you wanted to add lights to our ship now, you could add some lights here, or yeah, all kinds of stuff. But perhaps let's go back. I close a few of these here. I think I have too many open right now, so this will be easier for you to grasp if I just have those open that are the normal three. Yeah, that's a viewport here. So representation of our components in a 3D space. Then there's a construction script that is called on the initial spawn of the object, I think. So I'm not doing any special operations there right now. And this here is the event graph. So this is based on lots of different events. Events are coded in red. Mostly based on player input, like here in my ship control section, I've got input access events. But there are also events firing like every frame, like the tick event, for example, and all the stuff that's then lined up there from there on. Yeah, so you got the event graph, where you do the most of the logic, I think. Construction script, it might be a good idea to have some logic right at the start, and the viewport to toy around with the components. Now, on your left-hand side, where you can see the components, there is also, besides the events graph we already know, there's functions. So you can to tidy the event graph here. Yeah. If I've put lots of the logic into functions, these are blue ones, these are player-made functions, so methods. Reusable, then I mean, yeah, you know this, yeah, exactly, and this one here is a function in the making, you could say, yeah. So I'm doing all the nitty-gritty right here now, and when I like it, then I'll choose a whole Monty here with, you can yeah, just intuitively you can mouse wheel to zoom, and whole left mouse button to select, group select stuff, and then I could do something like right click and collapse to function. And then the whole thing would go into a function here. Yeah, and then I could tidy it up and place somewhere and reuse it. Now, I don't want this right now, and the good thing is you have always an undo, under edit. You can just undo collapse, and bam, there's my stuff again. That's so important to have. Yeah, good. And so now, some basic stuff. A right click here allows you to place new blueprints. Have a watch for context sensitive, because you will miss some options when this is turned on. It helps you to find the good options you might need in the moment, but sometimes it's too restrictive, and sometimes I have to turn it off to find stuff I want to use. So you right click here and tells you that you want to do if is a branch here, but he's quite clever, so he knows if from programming language. It's a branch node, yeah. I mean, I could also have ended branch, I guess, and the two, but well. So you can just drag and drop it from there, or just click it, and there it is. And can move it around now and place it. Now, yeah, when you Let's just work with, here's a condition, for example. So these are called nodes, yeah? So I've got 4 nodes here. This is an input node, this calls a branch. And now if the condition, this one here, is true or false, depending on what you check for, there's two exits where the next node would follow. And now let's say I wanted to make our condition, and let's say I just wanted to make greater or lesser or whatever condition. Yeah, click it, and so now I could have my condition node here, and right click on a node, could convert this pin now to, let's say we want a condition that's about integers, and now it's an integer comparison. Yeah, and yeah, maybe now which variables, because I now have to connect variables here. Have some variables here. Well, let's say I've got my I don't know, my top acceleration, yeah. Get top acceleration, now it's a float. And I think now it's an automatic conversion, because you recognize that I've plugged a float in it, so everything turns float. And I say top acceleration should be more than, I don't know, 100 to do stuff. Doesn't matter. So now I've got a condition set up. Yeah, and yeah, from there on something could happen. Like, say, I've got a print text, very good for debugging. Prints during runtime. You could print variables to the screen, good for debugging. So I could say, okay, print some text here. And now let's say I want to see the top acceleration text on screen. There's a node, so I can just click on this node and draw and connect it. And now it's ugly as hell, but yeah. And now the top acceleration will be printed as text on screen if it's greater than 100. Yeah, just some basic how the drag and drop connecting works. Now you see these comment boxes here, these gray ones. If you click a C anywhere, you create a comment box. And it's very handy to structure your stuff. And you can, I don't know, yeah, click on it and then move it. And all stuff that's inside the comment box is handled as a unit or as a part of the comment box. And now if I move the comment box with stuff inside, I move all the stuff. And I can, with double click on the text, I can write stuff here, blah, 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 blah. And if you do a shift return, you get additional lines. And it's very good for leaving exhaustive notes. Like I've here made myself a little idea memo, what I want to do with dogfighting or mining or whatsoever. And then I can go through this and don't need an additional notebook. And of course, if you describe for yourself or for more people on the project what's going on, that's certainly helpful. So it's been a while now. I think for starters, that's something to kick it off here. Yeah, I hope it helps a bit or motivates you to have a further look. Yeah, and let's see where it leads. So, goodbye.